Hello, this is Anna Imagination with the Healing Garden, and welcome to Shifting Perspectives. I am reflecting today on energy, specifically the energy pool and the energy source that is inside of our bodies, our brains specifically. I just recently, and I've been talking a lot about this if you've been following my podcast, I recently had a shift. First, it was last Sunday. Yes, it was last Sunday. Let me see if I can get the exact date because I'm all huge on tracking stuff. I love tracking stuff. So on July 23rd, I'm documenting this, I experienced my perspective shift from the seventh perspective to the eighth perspective. This is very much this is the research and the reflections that I have done in perspective psychology, founded off of the work established in the 1970s by Dr. Graves. So on Sunday, the 23rd of July, a week ago, I experienced my first consciously aware perspective shift from the seventh perspective to the eighth perspective. It has been an extraordinary week. And I've done so many podcasts over the last 7 days, documenting all of the stuff as it comes in. It's been like just mounds of data, mounds of research. The first thing that I noticed was a severe disorientation because I shifted perspectives. I noticed that everything completely altered and changed within probably 30 minutes. It was severe, eye-opening. I saw the world differently. And within 30 minutes, it wasn't even that long. It was so quickly. And it was so mind-bogglingly different of a drastic of a change that it was disorienting. But I could see how all of these people, every person in the world, is stationed at a specific perspective, just like Dr. Graves refers to. But this time I could see it. I could see my brother-in-law who was in the second perspective. I could see my stepfather who was in the fifth perspective. And I could see my two children who were in the fifth perspective. And then I could see them shifting as they got tired or injured or hungry. And I saw them shifting from one perspective down to a different one. I saw how each perspective could communicate. And immediately I set to work communicating with all of them, being able to relate to a second perspective person. And when I did that, he relaxed and he opened up, and I discovered that he was really a fifth perspective, but it was his subconscious mind that I was interacting with. Now, this is from my research with Tradic Healing. I've done so much research with psychology that when I speak to people, I can see the difference between their identity and their subconscious mind. It is an extraordinary skill to be able to speak to somebody and know when you're talking to their subconscious mind or their identity. Talking to an identity is like talking to a colorful, artistically beautiful artist. And you could be talking to a painter or a dancer or a musician. And it's extraordinary to hear the ideas and the feelings. To talk to a subconscious mind is like talking to a toaster. That's exactly what it's like. It is exactly like talking to a toaster, and not just any toaster, the same toaster. 100%. Everybody's subconscious mind is identical, including mine. In fact, that's how I know when I'm talking to a toaster, is because I had to learn my subconscious mind so well so I could outsmart it. And then I found out I was trying to outsmart a toaster. This is really humbling. This is really humbling that I had to learn how to outsmart a toaster. And I did. I outsmarted my toaster. And my toaster is no different than your toaster. It is our lack of education on how to run and operate toasters. So me being me for 30 years, I sat down and I pulled my toaster apart and I put it back together again, and I pulled it apart and I put it back together again. And I did this for 30 years, just playing with my toaster until I learned every little wire and crevice of my toaster. Now, when I talk to somebody, there is nothing that they say to me that I have not heard from my own toaster. Now, I know how to call bullshit on toasters. I'm really loving this analogy, really. And because I know how to call bullshit on toasters, I could have a conversation with somebody and within 30 seconds, I can go, oh, dude, I'm totally talking to your fear system right now and your subconscious mind. That's just programming from abuse. I would rather talk to the artist and the dancer. That's what I would rather talk to. And when I started to see the world like this a couple weeks ago with my work through traumatic healing, it allowed me to engage with people instead of toasters. And that's really where connection happens. That is where human connection actually happens, is talking to an identity. So about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I developed this social habit of refusing to talk to toasters. I'm sick of talking to toasters. I'm at a point where I'm starved for identity from other people. We all are. We just don't know it. You don't know it. When you talk to another person, 99% of the time, you are talking to their toaster. Actually, according to NIM and the CDC, 95% of the time, you are talking to the toaster. Toasters have no emotions. Well, that's not true. Let me rephrase this. They have no consciousness. They have no love. They have no, it's a machine, it's a toaster. So when you seek human connection, what you're really seeking is vulnerability and a connection to love. You are looking for that connection to love, which is the identity. You are seeking to connect with their energy pool, which is love, which is identity. A toaster does not have any of that. The toasters are just computations and algorithms, very cold mathematical AIs, rogue AIs, but they are all the same and they all run textbook. It's disgusting. So I realized all this about 2 to 3 weeks ago, and I got to a point where I said, I'm all done talking to toasters. So now when I talk to somebody, I've developed the habit of saying, I refuse to engage with your subconscious mind. I want to talk to you. And I will divert the conversation and say, no, that is your subconscious mind. I want to know how you feel. I want to know what you want. I want to know what you desire. I don't want to hear the regurgitated garbage from your toaster, because that's the same regurgitated garbage from my toaster that my toaster spilled out at me for 30 years. I'm all done hearing regurgitated, scripted garbage. I want art and authenticity. I want deep human connection with love. So I walked into the 8th perspective already with this concept, with this knowledge. And then Sunday happened and I felt that shift, and it was like a toaster slapped me in the face. It was disorienting. And then I could see how all the subconscious minds and identities are all stationed in different perspectives. And I could see how it's so beautiful. I can see how every one of us has 3 different perspectives crammed into our head. I'm going to say that again. Every one of us has 3 different perspectives inside of our head at the same time. Now, this is not comfortable. This actually hurts a lot. We are not meant to have 3 different perspectives in our head. We're supposed to have 1. But abuse happens. Perspective abuse happens. Because perspective abuse happens, we don't have access to who we are, and our identity is lost under all the toasters. And that's what's happening. You have your toaster, you have your identity, and you will most likely have 3 other toasters that have been forced into your subconscious mind. So you have 4 toasters all fighting for space in there with your environmental subconscious perspective, your environmental perspective, and your identity. There's no room for your identity. So your identity gets thrown out to make room for all of the toasters. So a person is made up of 3 toasters and an environment that reflects the majority of all toasters. You can see why I'm sick of toasters. Because identities are rare. Because identities are not celebrated in the current toaster that we have running our system. So I am in the business of eliminating toasters from people's perspectives. So, in entering the eighth perspective on Sunday, I noticed this. I was able to see everybody's toaster. I was able to see the different layers and the perspectives. I was able to see how they moved and interacted. I was able to see the language they use. And I was suddenly able to step into that language and into that perspective. And then I remembered when I was a perspective 2 and a 3 and a 4, I'd forgotten. We all have forgotten our previous perspective. It's not possible to hold on to all the different perspectives until you get to perspective 8. When you get to the 8th perspective, you get all of the memory back. All of the memory comes back. And that's what I've been remembering since Sunday, is how it felt and how it was to be in all the different perspectives, so that I can start transcending between all the perspectives. And that's what I've been doing, is I've been moving between all of them. So I can now speak to somebody in the second perspective and understand them. Suddenly, the communication gap, the perspective gap between my mom and I is gone. The communication gap between my sister and I is gone. Suddenly, the communication gap between my partner and I is gone. That's the 8th perspective. It was extraordinary. After the disorientation, it was on Thursday. Let me grab that date. Something new happened on Thursday. It was the 27th of July. I experienced a shift at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I was overwhelmed with substantial love. Substantial. The best way I can explain what happened to me was that at the 8th level, fear completely stops to exist. It dissolves. There is no more. There's just no fear. Fear acts like a stopper on love. Fear is a damper. That's what fear is. It is a damper. It is a filter. That is exactly what fear is. It's a filter. And it suppresses, it completely shuts down, and it dampens love. But love is a positive energy stream, and its polar opposite is fear. So if you have a surplus of fear, you are going to have a deficit of love. Now, fear is a negative pulsing energy, whereas love is a positive energy. So what ends up happening is when you have fear, it stoppers the love, the positivity drops, the negativity skyrockets, because the both are required to cancel each other out and eventually tip the scales. But if you have a surplus of fear, the love goes away. So on Thursday, on the 27th of July at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, my fear vanished. My love surged. Now, around 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 28th of July, I woke up with a new emotion. The emotion was an absence of fear, so that all of the things my fear had been suppressing, all of the things that I wanted to say and couldn't, surfaced. Because the fear was no longer holding them down, I suddenly had 3 days of just vocally purging on my poor, beautiful partner. From July 28th at 2 a.m. to the 29th of July, I found myself completely overwhelmed with, I have a lot to say to you that I have not had the courage to say until now, because my fear is gone. And I threw everything out there. I think I wrote him like 10 emails, and not including the slew of just texts. Really, I feel very bad for him. Like, I need to warn him, by the way, you are going home to like 20 emails, because I eliminated fear, and suddenly I was able to say everything I had been wanting to say to you for 2 years that I was too afraid to say. So after this massive purge, and I'm going to refer to it as a purge, I believe everyone will go through this. I believe once you get rid of fear, once you reach level 8 and your fear vanishes, you're going to purge. Everything you've been suppressing from fear is going to surface, and you're finally going to just vomit it all out. I'm going to say again, no, it was a solid 24 hours where I just purged, and just everything I needed to say came out. Nothing was holding that back. Once that was gone, the liberation and the freedom followed. It was this massive, just, oh my God, I can finally spread my wings. I can finally be myself. I can finally just freedom. And it really, really just, you can see it. If you go back on my videos, you can see the difference. You can feel the difference in my energy. It's extraordinary. And all of this got me thinking about how much energy is actually inside of us. Now, we know this. Scientists have been able to prove this for a while, that we have energy and electrical currents in our spinal cords. But let me explain to you what this feels like at level 8. There is an energy pool. Physicists refer to this as the energy field. I feel like I'm standing in it. Now, we are standing in it, but I can feel like I'm standing in it. I feel like there's just energy, just, I can feel it shifting and moving. And I can feel this river of positive energy just siphoning through me. I can feel it moving through my entire body. It's extraordinary. I can feel my spinal cord just rippling with energy, positive, healthy energy. And I can feel it shaping my brain. The brain is a battery that produces a surplus of negative, positive, or neutrality. It is a battery. Thoughts and beliefs are the core of this battery. Thoughts and beliefs. Words are the core of this battery. Words are the first. Words are the foundation to everything. I was not expecting this. I was expecting it to be identity. No, it's not identity. It's our words. Our words are directly linked, channeling into that energy, into our brain. 100%. And it all begins with words. It begins with what we say. It begins with what we think. And that taps right into our river. It taps it. Our taps our identity. And then those words just siphon out love. Now, if you destroy love, then you're going to shift those words over to fear. So you speak out of a place of fear, or you speak out of a place of love. And I feel so stupid that I didn't see this before. When you look in the Bible, Jesus says, when you speak it in my name, I know Jesus's name finally. This matters because let me show you something. I know a lot when it comes to linguistics and words. It is my first passion. I adore words and language. And I know a lot about the Roman Empire and the evolution of language. I studied the PIE chart, P-I-E, that is Proto-Indo-European Language Chart. This is linguistics. Linguistics studies how a language evolves, what elements make up a language, and all of the chemicals and all of the recipe that makes up a language, the process that the language goes through, which captures a society, and the psychology behind a society that fuels those words. It all comes back to the words that are used, which tell us a lot about the society. It's how I was able to do psychology the way I did it, was by studying language. Because by using the language we choose to use reflects completely on the psychology. Words are a mirror to your psychology. So when I'm looking at books, when I'm looking at cultures, I'm looking at the written words they produced 2,000 years ago. I can learn a lot about their psychology just based on the words they choose to use. So I studied linguistics. The name Jesus has two things that stand out really, really hard to me. The first part is the fact that it's J-E. J is in Latin a letter that did not exist until much later, which is why when you look at Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, Juliet is spelt with an I, because J, much later, past the 1500s, replaced the I for J. If you had an I-O or an I-E, then it was pronounced Y, like a Y. The I is actually a huge part of classic Latin. J is modern Latin. At the time that Jesus existed, there would be no J. So Jesus's name at that time would have actually been Jesus, which is what we say in Latin. Pie Jesus is baby Jesus. So the J really, really grates on me because it never should have been a J. There's no J. Jesus's name was not Jesus. The other part of that, S-U-S. S-U-S is Roman. That's not Hebrew. That's Roman. What is a baby boy born to two Hebrew Jews of Nazareth doing with a Roman name? Anybody? What was his real name? What was his real name? Because it wasn't Jesus. Mary and Joseph never would have called that child Jesus. That is a Roman title. That isn't even a name. Even the name Joshua in Hebrew is Joshua. Joshua. Joseph is not pronounced Joseph. It's like Joseph. Joseph. Y-O-S-E-F. P-H is Greek. So what's Jesus? It's a title. It's not his name. Now, if you read the scriptures, the entire time Jesus is talking, he keeps saying over and over again, say my name, use my name. And I'm going, isn't that interesting? What is your name? Because it's not Jesus. So what's his name? For 30 years, I have been looking for this answer. And I found it. I feel like an idiot. God is love. And he says over and over again that he is God, that he is God the Son. His name is love. So when he says, speak it in my name, he is saying, say it in love. Say it out of love. That is what he is saying. Now, I do not believe his real name was love. I think it was metaphorical for saying, if you want to know how to manifest, you speak it out of love and you'll get it, which is exactly how you manifest. That is exactly how you manifest. You have to want it out of pure love, which means if you try and manifest out of a place of greed, denied. God, I love how gorgeous that just, oh, I love it. It means no one who is not pure of heart can manifest. Cut off, denied. You're not doing it. It means anyone who is trying to use manifestation for a place of selfishness or evil, not going to work for them. My God, I love how just and karmic the universe is. When I studied this and it all fell out, I just went, son of a fucking bitch. They guaranteed narcissists cannot use manifestation for evil. Not possible. Not possible at all. This is gorgeous karma. Beautiful karma. You cannot manifest if you are thinking about yourself. You cannot manifest if you are doing it with pure selfish intent. You cannot manifest if you are not speaking out of true, selfless love. So beautiful. There's a lot more to it. There's a lot more that I uncovered that just confirms it, verifies it. And I just went, son of a bitch. Like, I loved rereading the New Testament. I started pulling it apart again, going, oh, look at that. The whole damn New Testament is just, so you want to manifest. Here are the instructions. And once you get to the 8th level, it started to happen when I was in the 7th perspective. But when I got to the 8th perspective, I went back and I went, oh my God, there's a code here. It's literally how to manifest 101. It's gorgeous. But people who are at perspectives 1 through 5, 1 through 6, have been reading the Bible from perspectives 1 through 6, taking it all literally. And it reminds me, oh my God, it reminds me so much of Men in Black when they open, Men in Black 2, when they open the little locker and there's all those people and there's like have an adult bookstore in the back and there's like this porn shop in the back in the locker. And it's how they literally translated the religion that was given to them. And that's exactly, I'm standing here at Perspective 8 going, oh my God, there's a porn star, there's a porn shop in the back of the locker. No, it's how to manifest. It's gorgeous, but you can't see it until you're at the same perspective that Christ was. And Christ was at perspective level 7 or 8. Pretty sure he was at 8. Yes, he was at 8. He said things that you don't know until you're at 8. But you have to be at level perspective 8 to see what Christ is really saying, to see what all of it is really saying. The Bible is written in perspective 8. Boom, there it is. The Bible is written in perspective 8. So when you read it, perspectives 1 through 6, it's not literal. You're not going to get it. It's, oh my God. Completely no. And it's things like his name, him saying, say my name, say it in name, which is why people who are level 2, 3, 4 are saying, in Jesus' name, amen. No, that's not it at all. Because his name wasn't Jesus. Because if you study Latin, if you study Greek, if you study ancient culture, you know his name wasn't Jesus. There's a lot that I'm looking at going, that doesn't make sense. For instance, the fact that he was 12 years old and he was consulting with scholars and philosophers. 12 years old. I know why. Because he was at like perspective 6 when he was 12 years old. And they were flabbergasted by his philosophy. He went and studied with a monastery because he was pursuing enlightenment. He was a Buddhist. And when you study Buddhism and you compare it to the teachings of Christ, they're identical. And then if you take perspective 8 and you look at Buddhism and you look at the writings of Christ or the work of Christ and you compare all three of them, they're identical. They are identical. But it's all metaphorical. It's not metaphorical. It's all perspective 8 language, because you can't just come out and say a lot of this stuff because they had to hide it from people. It's not information you give to people who don't have ethics. You require ethics. So yes, the entire New Testament is pretty much nothing but instructions on how to manifest. But you're not going to be able to read it until you're at perspective 7 and 8. It's absolutely extraordinary material. Now, while all of this is being said, we have this massive energy in our brain of negativity and positivity. And most of us are subconsciously hardwired for negativity because we spend every day fighting back negative perspectives, fighting negative notes, negative thoughts. We have to consciously apply positive thought. We have to consciously apply and redirect from negative to positive because we are subconsciously thinking negatively. So if you're thinking negatively on a subconscious level, your toaster is hardwired for negative energy. And what I did, and this is the one thing, what I accomplished this week was shifting the polarity, which is what I did on Thursday. On July 27th, I shifted the polarity from negative to positive. Now, here's the question. Was this because I just spent the last 4 months retraining my subconscious mind? Or was I able to switch the polarity because I'm at level 8? Furthermore, did I get to level 8 because of the reconditioning that I've been doing for the last 4 months? Or did I get to level 8 just because it was the next natural stage for me to do so? I don't know. This is where it's time for me to sit down with people and start giving them this information and start testing it on them. This is what I did. This is the path I took. Now let's watch and see how long it takes you to go from 0 to switching that polarity in your brain so it's from negative to positive. What are the consequences going to be? Are you going to level up from your perspective? Can you achieve this information prior to being level 8? Is this exclusive to level 8 information? I don't know. I'm not going to know until I sit down and I put people through triadic healing and I start to sit down and document, okay, what results what are you looking for? So yeah, I'm looking for beta test subjects. I'm very much ready to start my research because these are questions that I don't have the answer to. I'm starting my first class on on the 14th of the 14th of August is when I'm starting my next class. And I'm giving it to teachers for free. So if you're a teacher and you're wanting to learn how to do this, but it's so much more than that. There's just so much information. I am just so excited. I'm going to go back to this particular video and I'm just going to write down all the questions because I have to find the research for this. So now I get to start actual research, which I'm excited about. Now, I gave perspective thinking to my children. That's the other thing, is in the last week, I came up with perspective psychology. I came up with perspective thinking. I was able to see how the different perspectives are all part of it. I came up with combination theory, understanding that we all have 3 different perspectives inside of our head that we're all working out of. These 3 perspectives cause cognitive dissonance because you have 3 different perspectives in your head. If they're not aligned, you're going to have cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is where all emotions and pain come from. So if you're aligned, if you have no toasters in your head and you just have the one perspective, you're going to feel good. You're going to feel great. You now have happiness because you're aligned and you have one perspective. We are not meant to have multiple perspectives inside of our bodies. And we do. All of us have had multiple perspectives crammed into our heads. We can't do it. It literally rips our brains and our minds apart, which is why we are so miserable. This is all connected. It's extraordinary how it's all intertwined. It's a lot to take in. It's a lot to really process. So I'm going to shut this down here and I'm going to meditate and digest. It's such extraordinary. It's really extraordinary. I cannot wait. I want to write papers on this. I want to do talks on this. I want to sit down and talk to people about it. I need to get into CERN. I really want to sit down with the people in Switzerland and be like, let's talk. I really want to talk to you about particle physics. It's extraordinary. So I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, my class starts on the 14th of August, and those are the questions that I'm going to need answered as far as if this is a consequence of being at level 8 or if level 8 is a consequence of the triadic healing that I did, if the triadic healing caused perspective thinking or if perspective thinking is what resulted from all of this. I don't know. So my classes consist of combination theory. It consists of a lot. And it's basically all of my research spanning over 12 weeks. I believe, yeah, it's 4 months basically. Yeah, 12 to 16 weeks. And then I have an integrated. So the first one is going to be conscious awareness, giving all of this information to people and doing so that it's integrated over a timely fashion. And I already have the schedule all laid out. It's the exact same one that I followed, and I documented everything. So it's going to be the 12 to 16 weeks, full integration. And then I have a program called Journey into the Self, which is a monthly membership of $120 a month, where it is it's one-on-one, it's group. It's basically when we integrate all the classes and all the information. So you're going to get the information, that's the class, and then you learn how to integrate it with the workshop. And that workshop partners with the classes so that you get the information and then you integrate. You get the information and then you integrate. And I go through a daily coaching with you where it like infuses itself. I have a 90, I don't want to do 90, 3, 6, 9, 120 day. That's what it is. It's 120 days of daily checklist in addition to a weekly plan. So I have a 100-day by day schedule to integrate, and then the weekly, this is your information. So every week starts off with you getting the information via the week, and then the next 7 days are going to be, okay, now we're going to integrate that information. Here's the assignments and here's how it's done. And it's 120 days of that. So that by the time I have you down to 4 months, you'll be fully integrated and your polarity will have been reversed from negative over to positive. And when you turn off that negative energy, your mental illness goes with it. It's not possible to have mental illness without a fear system. So your fear system goes away because we're shifting you from fear over to love. Extraordinary. Absolutely extraordinary. So when I do this, my question is, are you going to level up to level 8 when we do it? Or Are you going to stay in the same level? Where are you going to be? I'm curious to see what that is. That's the first thing I'm going to look for. The second thing that I'm going to be looking for is, no, that's it. That's it. I want to know how the perspective levels go. And when I start you off with combination theory so that I see, okay, your combination is this, your ethical perspective is A, and your subconscious perspective is B, and your environmental perspective is C. And so you have A, B, C. They need to be the same number. You need to be aligned. And if you're not, that's what causes you pain. So I have a quiz now available on my website so you can determine what your combination is and you can see how severe your alignment is or misalignment is. And basically, happiness is when you're aligned. If you are ethically an 8 or ethically a 6, then your environment and your subconscious mind need to be also at a 6, but they're not. Your subconscious mind is probably a 2 or a 3 or a 4, and you're at an ethical 6, but your environment is a 4. Most likely it's 4. So you're needing to be at a 6 perspective, but you're being forced into this box at 4, and your abuse is telling you that you can't surpass 2. That's going to hurt. That's what pain is. That's what mental illness is. So once you realize that, then Triadic Healing takes you by the hand with the subconscious mind, and it evolves the subconscious mind along with you. So you grow from each perspective into the next. And there's a bullet list, a checklist of everything you need to hit off each one of those milestones in each perspective to get you to the next one. And I have all those written out. So it's literally just getting you through the checklist, learning a lesson at each one of those. It's extraordinary. This is my work. This is what I do. Welcome to the Healing Garden and Triadic Healing. So thank you so much. And I will definitely be seeing you later. If you're interested in any of this information, take a look at my website, www.annashealinggarden.com. annashealinggarden.org. I have a lot of classes available. I have speech, communication, boundary classes coming up. Next Saturday, those start. I have education. I have emotional education classes that are coming up that has already started on my podcast. And I also have overcoming the fear of growth and change. That is also a class that is coming up. Those are all free classes that I offer online. And I also have my master classes, the Journey into the Self and the Power of Self mini master power courses. Those are also available. So thank you so much. And may the kindest of words always find you.